Today I find myself adrift in the endless blue, single-handedly responsible for cleaning up the entire post-apocalyptic ocean with nothing but a dodgy hook. But how did the world become so wet? How many of this shark's family members can I murder in cold blood? And how epic can I make my raft? Please make sure your life jacket is fitted snugly, and if you do fall in, your best bet against the great white shark is to punch it on the nose. But enough of that, let's get drifting. I played 100 Days of Raft. On day 1, I found myself adrift looking like this. Very handsome indeed. I had a tiny raft, a plastic hook, and an infinite trash-cluttered sea. So I got to collecting.
Give me leaves. What?
As you can see, I was an absolute beast at reeling in rubbish.
Uh-oh, there's a shark. Get out of here, bro.
Charlene the shark was circling ominously, which I didn't appreciate, but I ignored her for now and collected plastic, planks, and big old palm leaves. And even better were the barrels.
All potato beat. Nice.
I then figured out how to open my inventory and crafting menu. I can make a whole bunch of useful stuff in here, and the first thing on the agenda to craft was the building hammer, which lets me expand my raft. Adding some more foundations, which cost 2 planks and 2 plastic each.
Oh, he's coming for me. He's coming for me.
I don't know why I was calling poor Charlene a he, she's clearly a beautiful woman shark, but either way I scrambled to craft a weapon.
Ah! Oi!
I did manage to make a spear for next time Charlene decides to eat my delicious raft. There was a little island here, but I was too scared to risk swimming to it, so I drifted on by. But it was nice to know there is land in this game. It's not going to be all blue.
This is big boy crate.
Whew. I've got a thirst and hunger bar down here, so it seemed wise to work out a plan for water, and so I made a purifier and a cup.
Fill with seawater. Place cup of seawater. Nice.
Another island was coming up ahead, and I was determined to visit this one, so I made myself a paddle. Oh! It scared the crap out of me. I tried to repair the damage to this foundation, but couldn't figure out how, so I gave up and paddled over to the island. I made this throwable anchor, attached it to the raft and chucked it in the water to make sure my raft didn't abandon me, and then made a realization.
Oh, I'm supposed to place planks there.
With planks as fuel, my purifier was now actually purifying, so that was good, and I made myself a simple grill and whacked a potato on to cook as well. My first cup of fresh water was ready in short order, so I gave it a slurp, which quenched some thirst. I made myself a stone axe, ate my first cooked potato, and jumped into the water. I spotted these rocks under the water, and it seemed they were collectible.
Ah! Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay, I can't do this right now.
And so I bailed. I don't know why I didn't swim literally 2 meters to the land there, but clearly Charlene had me pooping my pants. I then made a small crop plot in which I planted some veggies and watered them with some purified water. As day 2 dawned, I realized I'd somehow fished up 2 blueprints, one for an antenna and one for a receiver. I made a research table and popped it down here and expanded out the raft some more so that Charlene doesn't eat my new table. This allows you to research specific materials, and once you've researched each particular material to craft a specific item, that item becomes available to craft. I learned how to make a few things, including a bigger crop plot. I investigated my decorative crafting options and saw I could make a calendar.
My calendar wall. Yeah, let's go.
This is very handy, as without it I would have 100% lost track of what day it was and ended up doing like 142 days accidentally. I eventually thought to research nails as well, which are made from scrap, and this unlocked a very juicy crafting recipe, the simple collection net. This combines planks, rope, and nails to make a net that automatically catches the floaty trash for me. Absolutely beautiful. And as you can see, it was well into the night of day 2 before I paddled my way to a nearby island. I was determined to actually visit this one instead of quivering in fear. I found some watermelons, flowers of various colors, a palm tree and mango tree, which I chopped down, and some pineapples. Except my bags were really full, so I think I may have missed some stuff. I ended up just making a pile of crap here on the raft to create space in my bags. This seagull started going absolutely ballistic on my crops.
Oi! Oi! This game's stressful, man. I just feel like I'm on the edge of my chair trying to maintain like a million things at once.
I was so stressed, in fact, that I completely forgot to try and scavenge underwater at the island. It's all good because there's always another island on the horizon. In the meantime, I scrounged together the plastic to make a couple of storage boxes, which solved my inventory overflow woes. And then I ate a watermelon. It takes 2 chomps to eat, and it quenches a fair bit of thirst and a bit of hunger too. I made a few more collection nets and spread them out around the place, and I opened up some of these decoration packages I found in barrels. I learned how to make a shelf, fireplace, firewood rack, and pile of books. I'd worked out that I could craft shark bait, so I was hoping to use some to vanquish Charlene. It required some fishies to make those, so I crafted a fishing rod and got to fishing. As day 4 dawned, I caught the last fish I needed. I chucked an extra fish on to fry and made my shark bait. I chucked it in the water and Charlene was intrigued. As she came in to grab the bait, I poked her with my spear and she swam off.
Come on, Charlene. Come on. Come on. Get it. Get it, you idiot.
And eventually the plan paid off.
Did I get him? I got him. He's flying. Why is he flying? No, he's floating. He's flying. I got a shark head. Yes. Hey, get away. Seagull stole my beats.
I don't know why I was calling Charlene a him again, but it doesn't matter because she's dead and I stole her meat and her head. Now, what I should have done at this point was head underwater and grab stuff while there were no sharks about. What I did instead was chase this weird dodo turkey around trying to stab it. But he was quite elusive, so I gave up and chopped down a few palm trees instead. I got some coconuts for my troubles. I then headed into the coral reef and was immediately assaulted by a self-destructing pufferfish that did a kamikaze fart on me. Once that pleasant aroma dissipated, I used my plastic hook to collect scrap, sand, clay, and stone. I obviously had to keep coming up for breath, but it wasn't too deep, so I didn't have too much trouble. I grabbed some seaweed too, and when I couldn't see much more to scavenge, I headed back to land, right into Pumbaa's loving arms.
Oh my gosh. What the heck?
I tried to fight the big fella, but I was having serious trouble, so I took refuge in the water.
What are you gonna do now, bro? Oh, there's another. What was that?
I honestly had no idea where that attack came from, so I swam away and decided to regroup at my raft. But this turned out to be a pretty bad idea.
I'm dead. Please don't kill me.
Charlene's cousin Charmaine the shark had found me and she was out for vengeance. But somehow I survived.
Oh, I made it.
I dumped all of my stuff and made a medium crop plot in which I planted some watermelon seeds. I also put some of that shark meat on to cook. I researched clay and seaweed and learned how to make clay bowls. I then crafted wet brick from sand and clay and placed it on the deck to dry. I also made a scarecrow to protect my crops from seagulls, as they'd pilfered my beets while I was away on the island. I made another storage container and then ate my cooked shark meat, which went a huge way to sating my hunger. I then made a break for the island while Charmaine wasn't looking and this time headed left. There was another huge area to explore and Charmaine was still circling my raft like an idiot, so I was free to scavenge away. I collected a bunch more goodies before attempting to come onto the island from this far side. I made my way up the hill a bit and I thought I'd escaped the warthog.
Where? Or was that a bird? What was that?
I then saw a light over behind a rock. Intrigued, I wandered over.
Hello?
What? I'd stumbled upon an island with a trading post, which took trash cubes and trade coins in exchange for all sorts of cool stuff. There were 3 tiers, 2 of which I needed to unlock, and I could sell these fancy fish in exchange for reputation and trade coins. I had no idea how to get trash cubes, and this gave me late game vibes, and yet I'd stumbled onto it on day 5.
Alright, well this is sick. I had no idea. Wait, did I just get glass, metal ingot, hinge? Let's go.
I wandered further up the island and the puzzle of the mysterious attacker was finally solved.
You. Oh, you're trying to drop stuff on me. He's dropping rocks on me.
As day 6 dawned, it was back into the water where I spotted something tantalizing.
Copper. I don't have bag space.
I ate 4 pineapples to make some room in my bags, which I actually think is quite impressive, especially while floating in the ocean. And I came away with a few copper ore for my troubles. I continued my sweep of the ocean floor and before long my hook broke. On my way back to my raft, I stumbled upon a curious find. It seems someone dropped a whole bunch of goodies all the way down here, almost too deep for me to reach safely. I vowed to return with the hook and headed off to my raft to make one. But first it was time to go on a researching rampage with all the loot I'd found.
Advanced purifier, hinge, bolt, advanced grill, metal fishing rod, shovel, large crop plot, metal axe, scrap hook, metal spear, net launcher, shears, stationary anchor, storage, smelter.
I made a few more wet bricks and put them down to dry and made myself a scrap hook, which was the newly researched improved version of the plastic hook. And on my run back, I realized there was more of a story to this game than I thought.
Oh, what the heck? Just realized I got a journal. The world is gone, but its stories remain. Gather as many as you can. For Pete's sake, watch out for sharks.
Them stories sure sound interesting, but for now it was time to dive. I had to dive 5 or 6 times to collect all the loot down here, and I may have almost drowned.
Go, 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 go.
I came away with the juicy haul, most notably 18 metal ore and 12 copper. Back on the raft, I picked up my 5 dry bricks, and it was back to what I do best, drifting like a lonely nerd on the endless blue. I kept up my chores of farming, cooking, and purifying. I wondered where the heck my scarecrow had disappeared to, and then made myself a chest and filled it up with all my craft materials. I extended my raft out some more, put 2 more bricks down to dry, and checked out this little island. It just had fruit, flowers, and trees. I researched some of these flower types, and I have no idea what I unlocked. In fact, I have no idea what what these flowers do at all, but they sure are colourful. As day 8 dawned, I crafted myself a simple bed. I wasn't a fan of exploring in the dark, especially underwater, so I figured I might sleep through some nights in future. I also picked up my 2 dry bricks, crafted my first smelter, and chucked in a bunch of planks and a metal ore and set that to smelt away. It was then time to plunder the underwater part of this island, but Charmaine wasn't having it. I think she was still salty about that time I killed her cousin Charlene. So I collected my freshly smelted metal bar and made myself a metal spear and metal fishing rod and got to fishing. I wanted to use a shark bait technique again, so I needed to catch the appropriate fish to craft it, herrings and or pomfreys. Except my mistake was I'd made a higher tier fishing rod. I kept catching fancy fish like salmon and catfish, and about 300 of every fish out there except for the 2 crappy fish I needed. I even caught an old shoe which I planted a potato in, this chicken fella who to be fair is absolutely glorious, and this bottle candle light thinger. I eventually gave up and slipped into the water hoping to sneak by Charmaine. It worked for a while, but I was sniffed out eventually, so I returned to the raft for more fishing. And I immediately caught the pomfrey I needed. But then when I went to craft the shark bait, I didn't have enough rope anyway, so I tried my luck again, and this time I stood my ground. And I guess since I'd been chipping away at Charmaine every time she tried to eat my raft, she was quite low health, so I managed to kill her. With free reign in the water, I cleaned up what was left to grab. I found a giant clam, which was new, and also more metal ore and copper. It was lovely until...
Oh, Cheryl's here now.
That's right, Charmaine's adopted daughter Cheryl the shark had arrived to avenge her mother. I researched the giant clam, which lets me build a bird's nest, and then removed my anchor and returned to the endless drift. I smelted some copper and researched the copper bar, which unlocked the battery recipe, which was intriguing. By the beginning of day 10, I'd upped my chest count to 3, and I enjoyed getting my storage situation a little more organized. I moved my existing collectors to make things a bit neater, and I made the raft a bit less randomly shaped. Admittedly, it did have a collection appendage sticking out, but other than that, it was actually a square for once. While I was working on these renovations, I spotted a manta ray, very spicy, and I soon drifted into another island. So I chucked an anchor down, but didn't explore the island just yet because I had a bunch of stuff I was working on. I whacked down some more wet bricks to dry, as well as some lanterns for lighting, and at this point I realized I hadn't researched the antenna and receiver recipes that became available when I found those blueprints ages ago, so I had a look at the research table to try and figure out what I was missing. Turned out it was vine goo, and so I looked through my chests and had the idea to try and smelt some seaweed. And sure enough, it let me. Turns out it literally tells you this on the tooltip, but I was too much of a goose to read that. While that was smelting, I collected some fruit and flowers from the island.
Vine goo. Okay, this is what I needed all along. Empty bottle. Glorious. Circuit board. Yes. Sweetener. Flippers. Cooking pot.
I kept smelting seaweed for more vine goo and made myself some shark bait with which to vanquish Cheryl.
Hadouken. I'm inside the shark. Give me that shark meat.
I got perhaps halfway through collecting all the stuff down here when out of nowhere Cheryl's great auntie Charlotte the shark tried to eat me. This time I hid amongst the rocks and fought her toe to fin. I was beginning to realize that if I timed my attacks and movements, I could fight a shark underwater without even taking damage. And after they lunged at me, I could get heaps of pot shots in. Yeah. And so I kept on scavenging. I found a random crate, which was nice, and soon enough my second hook of this expedition broke on me. And as I was recuperating on the raft, Charlotte's dad Shane the shark started devouring my bait. So I stabbed him a couple of times, but my spear broke. I didn't have the planks needed to make another one, so I decided to head out. Except my flamin' raft was stuck, so I had to paddle like a goose on the loose to get myself free. It was a struggle, but finally, at the dawn of day 12, I got myself back into drift mode. Please like the video if you agree that there's no better mode than drift mode, and subscribe if I missed this barrel. I extended the raft a bit, put another copper bar on to smelt, and enjoyed the fruits of my collection nets.
I think we can make a circuit board now. Research, antenna, sprinkler, receiver, juicer. Whoa! Beautiful. I wonder if I can do anything with those. If I like set up anchor here, if I could fight them or something.
I began smelting sand to make glass, and I made a second smelter with some bricks I'd left out to dry to speed up production. I used the glass to make an advanced purifier and cleared some space to place it down here. This fit 5 cups of seawater at once. I made a grill too. Food and water concerns just got way easier, which felt amazing. I collected my first batch of fried fish, and they were much better to eat than cooked potatoes or beets. I drifted close to this dilapidated raft, so I quickly dropped an anchor and swam over to check it out. There was a crate up top in which I found the recipe for vegetable soup, and let me tell you, never underestimate vegetable soup. This recipe ended up being the greatest later in the run. On my return to the raft, Shane bit my butt a couple of times, but I made it back.
We're putting our soup A soup recipe can go up here next to the calendar.
By the way, it may be hard to tell, but my raft was actually weirdly askew, which I think happened when I got stuck on that island earlier. This means that my collectors were awkwardly positioned at an angle to the trash, and it wasn't collecting very efficiently, and this was annoying the crap out of me. So I made myself a sail and tried to use it to rotate my raft, but all it did was push the raft in various directions without rotating it. Well, at least I finally had a sail. Probably should have had one of these ages ago. Anyway, I gave up and made my first water bottle from vine goo and plastic. This fits 5 cups worth of water. I put one of the salmon I caught earlier on to cook.
That's a big honkin' salmon.
I made a streamer which shows me which way the wind is blowing, and I made an antenna and put it here. Doesn't do anything without a receiver though, so I made one of those. I had a quick munch of my freshly cooked salmon and found it had 3 bites worth in it. Very nice. And then this happened.
That's a whale. Can I stab it?
I placed the simple battery to power the receiver, turned it on, and it simply said it requires higher altitude. And so on day 14, I spent about 10 years trying to get the flamin' antenna and receiver combo to work. And in the process, I learned a lot about all the options I had available using my building hammer. I made some poles, some raised platforms, some flooring, stairs, and ladders. I eventually figured out that it was the receiver that needed to be up higher, and the antenna seemed to be at an okay height up here, but needed to be a bit further away from the receiver. Oh, and I needed 2 more of them. This techie business is complicated. I managed to position the antenna acceptably far away, but I wasn't exactly impressed with the structure I'd built.
Look at this mess. Look at this mess. It's a disgrace.
I made 2 more antennas and lined them up.
Too close to other. Goodness sake. What if you're removed? Is that still too close? Okay.
You can hear the mild frustration in my voice there. Clearly, I wasn't a big fan of antennas at this point in my life. It's fine though, because I drifted into a little island, so I gave myself a break and went for an explore. It was the typical island, flowers, fruit, and trees kind of deal. I admired my raft from above.
It's kind of janky.
And once the land was picked bare, I headed underwater. I somehow escaped Shane's notice, so I had free reign over the delicious ocean's bounty. By this point, I decided I couldn't be bothered collecting stone, as I didn't seem to need much, but everything else got slapped by my hook. Shane was too dumb to eat me while I was in the water, but he was happy to eat my raft, which was a big mistake.
5 sharks down. Shane's dead. I wonder who's coming next.
Spoiler alert, Shane's long-lost brother Sheridan came next. I headed back into the water with my fresh hook, and man, this was a juicy underwater area. My resource chest was looking nice and full, so I kept those smelters working overtime. I got back to trying to figure out how to get the receiver working. Firstly, I gave my one functional antenna its own little tower platform. I then enlarged the receiver's platform so it actually fit properly, and made another antenna tower, hoping that 3 foundations away was enough.
Is that acceptable? Yes. Let's go, turtle. Can I stab you?
I put up my final antenna tower, the same distance away on the other side, and it was the moment of truth.
Let's go.
I ended up heading to the nearest green dot about 900 meters away. I was pretty sure the radar works orientated to the direction the receiver is facing. And so by that logic, I turned the sail in the direction of the green dot.
I don't know what the green thing means. I don't know why that one's blue. Maybe I should be going to the blue one because there's 2 green ones. Maybe the blue one's more important. I don't know.
I built another row of foundations to protect my antenna towers, and I also figured out that if I destroy a damaged foundation block with an axe, I salvage half the materials it cost to make in the first place, which isn't too bad. It would have been better if I just figured out how to repair properly, but that can wait until like day 60 because I'm a bit slow.
Can I make like a reusable anchor at this point? Stationary anchor. Holy crap, it's huge.
I slapped this big boy anchor down here and added some more foundations to protect it from Sheridan. And then I gazed longingly at the island the green dot had led me to. And this is where I realized I was no longer moving towards the island. My raft was sitting still.
For some reason I have to paddle the remaining distance. I think it's working.
It was working, but my paddle broke. And somehow I didn't have the materials to make another one. And then using my elite powers of deduction, I worked out why I was stuck.
Is it because I'm going like directly against the wind? Is that why? Oh.
And so I tried zigzagging across the wind, hoping I could slowly edge my way closer. It didn't work. I weighed anchor and drifted away for a bit so I could gather resources, and then I made a second sail.
Am I getting closer? No, I'm just staying still. I'm getting further away.
Well, of course you're getting further away, you idiot. Sails catch the wind. They don't magically fight against the wind. Anyway, I gave up and decided to head for the blue dot instead.
Why am I a woman?
You may remember that on day 1, I was well and truly of the male persuasion, but now I was looking slightly different. I'm not sure what the heck happened there. I think something weird happened with my steam sinking. Either way, why not? I fished as I went in an effort to keep up my stock of food. I also fished up this little cat. He likes to wave. That night, Sheridan tried to eat my raft for the last time. Rest in peace, fella.
We're close. We're closing in. I'm moving so slow though.
Once again, I was fighting the wind. I was beginning to wonder if I simply do not know how to raft. I tried the zigzagging technique again.
Alright, we're zigging and zagging now.
And of course it didn't work. So I whipped out the paddles.
Oh, I actually found it. There it is.
My rather questionable paddling technique was actually working. I had arrived at what resembled an oil rig with big old satellite dishes on top. And 2.5 paddles later, I finally made it to my first story location in Raft. And so I began exploring. There was a bunch of plastic and scrap I could pick up, so that was nice. And there were also some strange spray painted messages.
Caught a shark, named him Bruce. I got you, Bruce.
And I found this note.
January. It's been weeks. Just me and Owl here now. Stuck on this platform.
Basically, a bunch of weirdos with bird code names were experiencing strife, and someone named Sparrow stole the boat. So Owl and Cuckoo were stranded. Join the club and cry me a river, birdies. I've been stranded at sea for 19 days now. I performed some extraordinary parkour and found myself a crate with some juicy loot. I then found a headlight blueprint. This sounds convenient for late night diving. And I found another note.
Owl's radio notes, 22nd of December. Distress call received. 2nd of February. Gunshots in the distance. 6th of March. Another distress call. Varuna Point. Missing child.
This radio tower was getting all kinds of distress calls from all over the place. And finally, I was at the top.
Oh. What the heck?
This was neither Cuckoo nor Owl, so I was confused. But I guess I just unlocked a new playable character. And she promptly turned into a beam of light, which was alarming. Anyway, I then grabbed the recycler blueprint.
This is how you get trash cubes. Nice. Nice.
Maybe the trading post isn't such a late game thing after all. There was also a photo of Utopia, question mark, and coordinates to a new location. I opened up my journal and all my radio tower notes were recorded neatly, and I now had a new tab for Vasagatan, which I guess is where I'm supposed to go next. I returned to my raft, stashed my loot, and hit up the research table. I was able to learn how to make a recycler immediately, but I had to research a battery before I could learn the headlight recipe. I immediately made a recycler and started filling it with palm leaves, and it was taking a lot. I put in about 80 and it still wasn't full, so I decided I'd come back to it later. I hit up the receiver to punch in my new coordinates. Up until this point, I had no idea what this weird thing with the numbers was, but obviously this is where I put in 4819, my new destination. It was about 2 kilometers away. But first I decided to scavenge under the radio tower. There wasn't much there, but I did get into a battle with Sheridan's private investigator, Sherlock the Shark.
You dead, Sherlock.
Soon enough, I was back to drifting and I made myself a headlight and some flippers, my first equipable items. I was particularly excited about the flippers because fast swimming sounds very handy. Day 21 dawned as I set off towards the blue dot. I expanded my raft out a bit and consolidated all the collection nets into one long line. And I made even more collection nets and lengthened the line as wide as I could. I spread them out on every second spot as I figured this gave the best coverage for now, but the goal was to eventually have every spot full of collection nets spanning the entire width of the trash zone, so I never missed any trash. Sherlock's old partner Watson the Shark bothered me a bit, but I poked him away, and before long, just as I was about to explain how proud I was of my collection line,
Now I feel like I'm pretty much... Wait, what the heck is this? That's a cruise ship.
I got my inventory sorted and headed out to investigate.
Mechanical part.
It looked like I had immediately found an item that was going to come in handy on the ship, as it went into my journal as a sort of story item type deal. I climbed up the front of the ship to find it was looking rather deserted. I claimed the crate of goodies, had a peek through this window, looking kind of creepy in there, not gonna lie, and then spotted another mechanical part on the other side of the boat, so I grabbed that quickly.
Door is locked from the other side. Can I climb up there? I can. Door is locked from the other side.
I headed down to the lower deck and made my way into this tossed up bar area. I found some bullets, plus the first note of the boat.
As I've suspected, the crew is completely incompetent. Of course, the food shortage will need to be handled. Tonight we're discussing which staff members are most suitable for termination.
Well, that is one way of handling a food shortage. I found my third and fourth mechanical part, and then a sneaky entrance at the back of the yacht. I made my way into the bowels of the ship, and it was rather dark, so I whacked my headlight on. I grabbed a crowbar from this engine room and also turned on this switch, and I have no idea what that did, but the crowbar helped me to open this door, so that was good.
Oh. Oh, okay, they're not that hard. Raw meat. disgusting raw meat, but raw meat. Any more of you weirdos in here?
This bunk room had some vegetable soup, which I ate, and it was quite nourishing, and a locker that said requires bolt cutters. I was getting serious escape room puzzle solving kind of vibes, and honestly that wasn't something I expected to come across in this game, but it was pretty fun so far. Next I found a door that required a blue key, and a bathroom where I found a red key. I used the red key to get into this room where I found another mechanical part, a bolt cutter, and a car jack.
Requires electrical wires, lighter, gas tank, bullet. Am I gonna make a bomb or something? That's giving me bomb vibes.
I was very excited at the prospect of potentially blowing something up, so I rushed back to the locker room and cracked it open with my newly acquired bolt cutters. This rewarded me with the blue key, and a note from Olaf whining about no one obeying him. I was getting the vibe that Olaf was something of a villain. The blue key unlocked a way upstairs, so I munched some watermelons and headed up. I found a creepy bar area with a pool table, some creepy but admittedly pretty fancy bedrooms, some hilarious graffiti on this painting, and this disturbing recording.
Hanna, you were brought to keep the engines running. That is what you...
That's one of those damn rats. What are you doing to it?
Get out! Do your job.
He was experimenting on a rat. Alright, we finally found something interesting here. 4-digit code.
Oh! I continued my systematic exploration of the ship and headed upstairs. My headlight ran out of battery, but I powered on and hoped I wouldn't poop my pants. I found a door that needed a key card and the 4-digit code for that safe back downstairs. Oh, and a note that can be summed up by this line.
I will create true soldiers. Loyal soldiers.
Yeah, old mate Olaf wants to mutate and train animals to be his soldiers. That guy is a lunatic. I opened the safe and found some electrical wires and another recording.
The crew are planning a mutiny, Captain. It is time to act.
They're just trying to stay alive. Are you mad?
Yes, Captain, he is mad. He is quite mad indeed. Next, it was upstairs where I found a key card, which I used to access this office containing the green key. And the green key got me through this door upstairs. This was like the penthouse of the ship.
Oh, there's the lighter. Okay, nice.
Get to the lifeboats! Hurry!
Olaf, you coward!
Watch out!
Sounds like that was a recording of the moment the yacht crashed into these rocks. Anyway, it was nighttime now and I had to head back into the bowels of the ship to make my bomb. So I did what any brave man would do. I returned to my raft and made a new headlight.
Alright. We have made a bomb.
I climbed my way to the top of the stairs and blew up the final door.
Oh! That was exciting.
I found a toolbox with 4 hinges in it, which was most excellent, a blueprint for a steering wheel, an esky with some choice beverages, and another blueprint for an engine. Those were some very exciting blueprints. And finally, I found a note with the coordinates to Balboa Island, my next destination. As I departed the yacht, I half expected Olaf to come out of nowhere and try to fight me, but no such violence occurred. And to sum up my experience on the ship, I said,
That was pretty cool. Somewhat creepy.
I punched in the new coordinates and they were literally in the opposite direction to the wind, so I decided it was time to drift for a while. My theory was the blue dot would probably despawn if I got far enough away from it, and hopefully it would appear at a more convenient location.
If not, I'm gonna have to go back like 85 billion kilometers once I get an engine. Speaking of which, I can learn steering wheel and engine immediately. Nice.
I didn't look into these spicy new recipes right away though. I'd done 2 story locations in the space of 5 days, so I wanted to take it easy for a while. I worked on the line of nets. I managed to fill in most of the gaps by the end of that day, which used up like 200 palm leaves. Definitely worth it though. Day 25 was much the same with some serious drifting going on, reveling in the glory of my unbroken line of collection nets. All the rubbish belongs to me. I built my raft out even more and did chores much like yesterday. By the way, I'd made a second bottle to use as my seawater refill container by this point, which was definitely much more efficient than doing it 1 cup at a time. And before long, I'd expanded the raft out a huge amount, pretty much doubling its size. I would not have been able to afford this even a few days ago, but now that I was drifting with so many collection nets, I was collecting plenty of plastic and planks. I made a chest for my food, and as you can see, my food stores were pretty impressive thanks to my diligent farming and cooking. And then with a nice big open space available, I began construction of a hut that I was planning to use for production. But I was interrupted as I drifted directly into this big old island. I made myself a net launcher, which I can use to catch animals apparently, and a bow along with a bunch of stone arrows. The net launcher warned me no ammo, but I couldn't figure out how to make ammo for it, so I gave up for now. Watson also tried to eat my raft, so he suffered the same fate as his old friend Sherlock. And then with the seas now temporarily free of sharks, I went for a dive. You know the drill, I collected all them underwater goodies for so long that another shark appeared.
Get absolutely destroyed, Cheryl. I've already had a Cheryl? I don't remember.
We have of course already had a Cheryl, that was shark number 3. What I was thinking when I misspoke there was that this dead fishy is actually Cheryl's favorite pop singer, Cher the shark. Anyway, I continued collecting underwater for so long, another shark attacked me.
You want some, do you? Oh, I'm drowning. I'm at more risk of drowning than I am of you. I'm cutting you up from the inside. You don't even deserve a name. That's my excuse for not naming you, because I've literally run out of names.
With the benefit of time to think up a name, it's clear that this shark was Cher's dog's best friend, Shaggy the shark.
What is this guy doing? I got him. Explosive goo. Wait, can I? Oh my gosh. I didn't realize I could actually put it on my head. Beautiful.
The tooltip for explosive goo said it can be dried in a smelter, so I did precisely that. And while scrolling through the research table, I realized the water bottle could be researched, so I made one and unlocked the oxygen bottle and binoculars recipes. For some reason I didn't make either of them though, but I really should have made the oxygen bottle. It's incredibly useful, as I found out like 30 days later because I'm an idiot. Anyway, once the explosive goo was turned to powder, I researched that too, unlocking the net canister recipe. That answered the question of how to get ammo for the net launcher. Since this was a big island, I was pretty sure it had a trading post on it, so I finished filling up the recycler and gave it a battery, and it got to work crushing. And then it was finally time to hit up the island proper. There was a warthog who got extremely confused by water, so I cheesed the fight big time by chilling in the shallows. Check out my new look. I explored the lower part of the island collecting as I went, and also found a little cave with mounds of dirt that appeared to require a shovel. So I headed back to the raft and crafted one, and then dug up some dirt. I then climbed to the top of the island and got some loot, and I also got into an epic battle with this bird idiot that dropped like 300 rocks on me. I had serious trouble hitting it with my bow. I think I managed like 3 hits total. And after wasting literally 40 arrows, I retreated to my raft. Alberto was too strong for me.
My trash cube done? Oh, 3 trash cubes. Oh, okay, that's nice.
I had put about 100 bits of trash in, so it seems like 25 or 30 trash ended up as 1 cube, which seems like a pretty good ratio to me. I also researched dirt.
Grass plot. Add water, get grass, feed animals. Interesting.
I then hit up the trading post and bought 12 simple bait with my 3 trash cubes. This will allow me to catch fancy fish to sell in exchange for trading coins and reputation. I then stole a crate of loot from my bird nemesis, fled back to my raft and got back into drift mode. And while ticking off some chores, I used my bait to catch some fancy fish. By the way, the green dot in front of me is the island I was just at, so I surmised green dots were islands with traders present. Except on this radar, it looks like it's in front of my raft, when in fact it's behind me where I left it. So I decided to move my receiver so that it was actually facing the same way my raft was, because I kept getting confused. And when I did, I found that the blue dot had reset and was now probably reachable if I angled my sail correctly. Now, any experienced raft players out there probably know how stupid it was of me to think this, but either way, my stupidity will be revealed in a couple of days. You'll see. I decided to stop off at this little island. I killed Shaggy's girlfriend Shauna the shark and then pilfered the underwater. It's day 31 and I'm drifting towards a blue dot. Look at the state of my materials chests, replete with resources. You love to see it. I then continued working on my build over on this side of the raft and decided to put my crop plots up here on the right of the platform and my cooking stuff here tucked between the 2 staircases. And this is about when I realized I'm quite stupid.
Oh wait, what is this? Isn't that the radio tower? You're joking, right? Why is this wrong? Why did this reset? I swear I put in 9495. You silly Wally. Oh, I guess this gives me more time to work on my raft. ...
Looking at the footage, I'm pretty sure the receiver reset to the original radio tower coordinates when I moved it a couple of days ago. And of course, I didn't notice. But if you thought that was the end of my stupidity, just you wait. I then worked on expanding my cooking setup a bit.
Okay, we're making a juicer. A cooking pot.
Turns out these are pretty huge. So I put the cooking pot down first and put up the recipes I compiled so far. To cook, you simply put the 4 ingredients onto their spot and off you go. I added some half walls to the side and placed down my purifier with fenced off access to the sea so I can easily grab salt water. Opposite that, I placed my juicer. I didn't have any strawberries needed for the soul juicer recipe I had though, so I wasn't able to give it a whirl just yet. The finished soup in the cook pot required a clay bowl to collect, so I made a bunch and scooped it out. From this point on, veggie soup became my go-to food for the rest of these 100 days. I noticed my nets were letting trash slip through, and upon investigation realized they all had 10 things in them, which must be the limit. So I made 3 more chests and placed them here as a temporary material dump. I made a second purifier and placed it here, and I ate the first of my homemade veggie soup.
We love to see that. That's good.
And I investigated my lighting options and discovered I can make these lanterns.
Can I? Oh yeah, let's go.
On day 33, I got my bearings again and saw the blue dot really was stubborn about remaining 2 kilometers behind me at all times. I began to wonder if I was going to be forced to make an engine before I could progress. I mean, that would make sense. But for now, I wanted to keep building. I placed these walls with windows all the way around and some doors. I then made a few more small crop plots and lined them up inside. And I gave it a palm leaf roof. Check out my hut building thingo. Looking pretty good.
Pretty serious beet and potato operation here.
I made one of the large crop plots and apparently it would have fit right in the middle, but that would have been kind of silly. So I placed it over here temporarily and planted a tree, and then realized I drifted right next to a green dot island, so I decided to check it out. I had one goal in mind, to kill a pufferfish, and I found one right under my raft. This time I was equipped with my bow so that he couldn't get close to me and blow himself up. I turned the explosive goo into powder and made myself a net canister, and I was ready to hit up the island.
Let's sell these fish. Let's try and find any dirt I can, because I want dirt. Let's try and catch an animal if I can.
I focused on those objectives and resisted collecting everything I saw, which honestly required a lot of restraint. I have a deep impulse to collect everything. I did fight and kill this warthog though, and this time without exploiting his aversion to water. Against my better judgment, I also went toe-to-toe with one of these bird idiots again. But by this point, I guess my aim had improved, as I managed to hit it about 10 times and...
Finally! Let's go. So many feathers.
I also spotted one of those dodo dinguses, as well as a llama, but I left them both to prance about while I checked out the trading post. I sold my 12 fish, earning 12 trade coins and 120 reputation, getting me almost halfway to tier 2, and then it was time to catch the llama.
Alright, I'm carrying a llama. Change animal name. Ooh, okay. I think you deserve to be called Dingus.
I gotta say, it's kind of hard to see where you're going when you're carrying a dingus, but I managed to get back to the raft. Especially impressive was my ability to swim while using both hands to embrace a llama. I popped Dingus down, and it seems she's tame now, so I left her to chill and researched the feather. I unlocked metal arrows, the paintbrush, and the hammock. I also grabbed a bunch of my excess palm leaves and chucked them into the recycler, as I must do something about my extreme lack of trash cubes. As day 36 dawned, I made Dingus a little temporary spot over here, and made some shears with which I collected my first piece of wool. I researched it and unlocked recipes for a full set of leather armor, but what I was really excited about was the backpack recipe. Extra inventory space sounds absolutely delicious. I then headed into the ocean hoping to find another pufferfish so I can net the bird idiot too. And I don't know if the same one from yesterday respawned or what, but I found one immediately, which was very handy.
Hey, the llama got out.
I destroyed the stairs to ensure Dingus pulls off no further escapades, and then headed back to the island in search of dirt, because if I'm gonna tend animals, I'll need some dirt plots to grow grass for their feed.
Oh, this looks promising.
I found 8 clumps of dirt, some cave mushrooms, and 2 crates of loot, a most glorious cave. I made 4 dirt plots, which I placed and watered so Dingus will have some food, and hopefully in turn produce more wool for me. I grabbed my trash cubes.
I got 4 that time.
I refilled the recycler and then headed out to scavenge underwater for a bit. And I had an epic battle with Sean the shark come to avenge his wife, Shauna. I collected a bunch, including the remains of another pufferfish, and then wandered onto the island to hit up the trade post again.
Spicy pine berry. I think I'm gonna need chili for that though. Let's have a look. Oh, I need strawberries and chili. I don't have either of those things. That was a questionable purchase. I decided I should just gun towards reputation so that I can get to the higher tiers.
And so I bought 12 more bait with my 3 remaining trash cubes. I then netted this headless chicken. I decided to name it Alfred, which upon reflection is a questionable name because this thing produces eggs, so it stands to reason it's female. But with a head like that, Alfred suits, I reckon. I waited around for more trash cubes and was pleased to shear my second piece of wool off Dingus, and also collected my first egg from Alfred. I eventually made the long walk back to the trading post with 5 trash cubes handy. When I got there, I found I could only spend 2 of them on bait, as the trader only had 5 in stock. I'd hoped to buy even more bait, but at least I now had 20 total, so that'll be 200 reputation. Enough to get me to tier 2 at the next green dot island I come across. I then finally got around to making myself an engine and a steering wheel. I first placed the engine, which confused me greatly, but I eventually worked out you need 3 tiles worth of space for the big spinny wheel. You could insert planks as fuel, you could change the direction the engine pushed, and you could activate and deactivate at will. I turned it on and then whacked the steering wheel down and attempted to direct my raft towards the dreaded blue dot. It was very cool to be able to turn my raft at will, but you may notice my engine was facing the wrong way. Also, it didn't seem to be turning very fast. I corrected my engine's positioning so that it actually pointed to the front of my raft, but the engine was still sluggish. I made a second engine and then noticed something.
1 equals 100 foundations. I think I have way too many foundations.
By my elite calculations, I had about 500 foundations. I actually had about half that. So if I just made one more engine, I would have been fine to get moving. But for some reason, my maths was out of this world horrible and I got overwhelmed. I lost confidence and I didn't want to have to use all my metal ingots on engines. And so I handled my problems the mature way. I gave up and continued drifting for a bit. After some time chugging away at chores, I decided it would be smart to turn my raft so that the collection nets were at the front rather than the back. So I used my steering wheel to turn 180 degrees. Now this meant that my receiver and steering wheel were now pointing the wrong way, so I of course turned them around. And you may recall what happened last time I moved the receiver. Yeah, the coordinates reset again, and therefore the receiver locked onto a different blue dot.
It's in front of me now. How did that happen?
In my defense, I didn't actually know what had reset my receiver the first time, but it really should have been obvious. Oh man, part of me wants to edit this nonsense out, but I gotta be real. You guys need to know the degree to which I am a goose on the loose.
I had a brief interlude from the engine shenanigans to enjoy the fruit of Alfred's wool I'd been collecting. Oh, let's go. That's a lot. That's 10 more slots. That's beautiful.
I drifted into this island, so I made a quick stop to dive for seaweed, metal ore, and copper. And while in the water, I killed Shazam the shark, Shaun the shark's favorite superhero. I decided I wanted more smelters, so I made some wet bricks and placed them to dry. And once they were dry, I made 3 more smelters and placed all my smelters on the other side of the hut. I also put a little wall up to split the production and farm areas up. And then I realized.
I think we're going bang on. Yes, we will definitely. Hang on.
I'll cut that clip there because the strange words uttered next are not fit for mortal ears. Suffice it to say, I was suitably annoyed at my stupidity. Now that I had the correct coordinates in my receiver again, I spent all of day 41 moving a bunch of crap around to make room for a bunch of engines. And on day 42, I made 2 more engines. And once I had placed 3 of them down, I didn't really have any more room, so I decided to fire up the 3 I had and see how it went. I filled them with 20 planks each and...
1, 2, 3. Oh! I think 3's enough.
My days as a drifting idiot were finally over. I aimed myself at the blue dot, the correct blue dot, and from here on out I had control over my raft's destiny. While sifting through the tons of trash my collection nets had picked up, I noted I had heaps of decorative care packages. I began unwrapping them and immediately got an achievement.
I think that means I've learned every decorative recipe, which is pretty sweet.
I had some time to kill, so I made a paint mill. I was confused as to why I couldn't place it anywhere, and then I worked out this thing's got to dip into the water in order to spin. So I whacked it over here for now and chucked some yellow flowers in, which I imagine will turn into yellow paint. I then looked through my decorative options a little and decided to make some trophy boards. I put a pufferfish head on this medium trophy board and a shark head on this big trophy board.
Actually, this is so ugly. I hate it. We'll leave the shark there though.
And then, the moment we've all been waiting for.
We actually made it. I can't believe it. The saga of like the last 6 or 7 days has been such fails. Eventually we got there.
And then the moment that no one asked for.
Oi! He just destroyed my engine!
Yeah, so apparently if a foundation your engine is sitting on gets destroyed, the entire engine dematerializes. I don't know why I didn't have extra foundations protecting the engine, but I won't be making that mistake again. Luckily I had an extra engine from earlier, so I was able to place that down. And with that, my engines were able to pull up at the sheer cliff face of Balboa Island. After quickly murdering Sherwood the shark, Shazam the shark's butler, I swam along this gap in the cliff face and found myself on a beach.
Watch out for bears. That sounds kind of scary. Huh, I haven't had these berries before. Wild berries.
This island was huge, so I was basically immediately lost. But I did find a signpost, so that was handy.
Ranger station, relay station 2, relay station 4, relay station 6. I'm gonna check down this way first.
Down this way, there were bees. I immediately recalled the sweep net crafting recipe. I hadn't made one yet as I didn't know what it was for, but I had a feeling I'd be able to catch these bees.
Is that a bear? Yep. This bear is angry, dude. He was pretty easy, to be honest. Oh, he's given lots of leather. Let's go!
I spotted a pine tree I could cut down, hadn't seen one of those before, and then I decided to head in the direction of the ranger station. I killed another bear.
I like the bears, they're not that hard and they give me lots of leather. Henry's stuff, keep out. Who's Henry?
I forged on despite the great mystery surrounding Henry, and soon found myself doing nuclear waste parkour, and then I was at my destination. I climbed up relay station 2 first, and found a note from Bruno who was anxious that he and his sister might have been abandoned. I'd say you're onto something, Bruno. This island is not in great shape. Also, was it you or Henry who made the nuclear waste obstacle course? I also flicked this switch, and now 1 out of 3 relay stations were active. Next, I headed to the ranger station.
Requires 1 light bulb. 1 Bruno's hammer. Oh. Mixes raw food and honey to create biofuel. Cool.
It then got dark and I got extremely lost. I stumbled onto a beach with like 20 stones on it. I fought a bear under moonlight, and I heard a dinging noise.
Oh. Huh? I just got an achievement. Is that all there is? What's the point of that?
There was no point to that. I do love a haunted bike in the woods though. I found this random tub and placed 5 wild berries in it.
Oh! I think I made a mistake. Oh, I'm dead.
For some reason, Mama Bear decided I wasn't worth finishing off. I guess wild berries are simply too delicious to resist. And so somehow I survived. I guess that's why they say don't poke the bear. Anyway, I then proceeded to poke the bear. There were like 300,000 trees in the way up here, so I went all the way around and started shooting at her through this gap between tree and rock. It didn't work. I must have hit her like 25 times, but she didn't die. Either she has tons of health and I gave up too quickly, or her health was resetting each time she ran back to the berries. Either way, I eventually gave up on those shenanigans and snuck into her cave. I found a blueprint for a machete, a toolbox with a machete in it, some dirt, and some mushrooms. I then headed back to my raft, except I went to the wrong beach and then stubbornly decided to swim back, so I was swimming for about 8 years. I crafted my sweep net, plus some more weapons, and then did something unheard of. I slept through the night. I did this purely to avoid darkness because I was genuinely lost last night. Check out the vibe on my raft during day 46's sunrise. Picturesque. I headed back out and killed Sherman the shark, Sherwood the shark's chef, and then headed towards bees. Winnie the Pooh had respawned though, and he didn't appreciate me stealing his honey.
My bee quest is well underway.
Then it was off to turn on the other 2 relay towers.
Bobby's maze, no trespassing. Bruno's saw.
I have no idea what Bobby's maze was all about. It didn't look like a maze to me, but whatever. I powered on and found myself at a drawbridge, raised on the other side of a giant drop.
Can I shoot an arrow at this thing? Oh, that actually worked.
Fortunately, I narrowly avoided becoming a human pancake drawbridge victim, and I crossed over and found myself atop relay station 4.
The kids are fighting. Oh, Astrid would have known how to make them stop. Please, I just want to talk, sis. Miranda is screaming outside. I hope her and Henry make up soon.
I was getting the vibe Bruno was slightly off his noodle, and perhaps he has like imaginary friends. Either way, 2 out of 3 relay towers were now active, and I found Bruno's hammer, as well as a fuel pipe blueprint and a map of the island. This map looked lovely, but I'm gonna be honest, it didn't help me. My strategy remained to wander until I found stuff. My wandering led me to bees, and these bees actually did damage to me, which was very rude.
Oh, there's a cave here. Oh, this is what I need the machete for?
I found some more dirt, love me some dirt, and on the other side of the cave, relay station 6.
Oh, they're hiding something. Did they figure out there's only space for 2 of them on the boat? I've decided. I leave the triplets in charge of the remaining relay stations. Bobby will take care of the bears.
Yeah, Bruno is definitely off his noodle. Anyway, I found Bruno's wrench, and then...
Johnny. Who the heck are you?
Johnny is the kind of bloke that turns into a giant beam of golden light. I found a blueprint for a fuel tank, and that sounds like everything I need to get a proper fuel setup for my engines. And I turned on the final relay tower.
Oh, that was all 3, and I got a new note. Caravan Town 8973.
I had unfinished business on the island though.
Just a random note here.
Betrayal. Father trusts the murderers.
Bruno's gotten weirder and weirder, man.
He would leave us behind. We can't have that.
Father has to make a decision. I know it won't be me, so I will be spared.
Not enough boat for all of us. I am sorry, Errol.
Alright, there's my light bulb.
The guilty lay restless. We must be punished if we are to rest.
That voice actor for Bruno's had a field day with these weird voices.
I radioactive parkoured back to the ranger station and screwed the light bulb in, restoring the head to this imaginary creature, and placed the tools on the wall, revealing this postcard from Bruno and his sister. Some lovely Easter egg type finds to round out a lovely trip to Bear Island. Day 48 and we're back to drifting, baby. I researched a bee and unlocked the recipe for a beehive, and I researched honeycomb, which unlocked the recipe for honey and improved health cells. I made a beehive which required 15 of the bees I'd caught, and I placed it down in here and figured the bees would probably benefit from some flowers nearby, so I planted some, and then decided it was time to upgrade my raft. It's possible to make all of your raft components solid, which is a more expensive, sturdier and fancier looking upgrade. I managed to upgrade the front part of my raft before running out of plastic completely. Looks like this will be a more expensive upgrade project than I anticipated. I realized the hut was made of planks only though, so I was able to upgrade it fully. Very fancy. I checked on my beehive and it looks like those are some bees. It seemed to be working, but I decided to hit up the old Google to be sure. It turns out for beehives to produce optimally, you need at least 12 flowers within a 1 block radius. So I moved 4 small crop plots over and made a glorious discovery. They hang on walls. I hung all 4 up and filled them with flowers, and hopefully that does the trick. I then arrived at the green dot island I'd been motoring towards, and it was smaller than I expected. It looked like a new island variety. I ducked underwater first, but there wasn't too much to scavenge. I did kill Shay the shark, Sherman the shark's niece's best friend, and also a puffer fish for some of that explosive goo. On the island itself, I found some bees, and there were caravans, which put me in mind of Caravan Town, my next story location.
Oh, what are you? Oh, you look ugly.
The abominable pig didn't give me too much trouble, but these zip lines did.
I don't have a zipline tool. Wait a minute. Does that mean I can't get up there?
That is exactly what it means, so no trading post for me today. I did, however, find myself my first goat. I put Billy in with Dingus and Albert, made myself a bucket, and collected my first bucket of milk. I pointed the raft in the direction of the next green dot, because I've still got business with the island trading post, and then decided to put a simple smoothie into blend. My first time using the juicer. Some honeycomb was ready, 3 honeycomb to be precise, so it was working properly, which was great news. When the smoothie was ready, I made a glass to put it in, but didn't drink it just yet as I wasn't thirsty. I then arrived at the island and opted to hit up the underwater zone first, as I felt I was due a top up of materials. I killed Shay the shark's best friend, Shay the shark. That's Shay with an E, different spelling to the other Shay. It's confusing, I know, there's like so many sharks, it's hard to keep track. I found one of these fallen crate situations. These are always good for tons of resources, but it was quite annoying managing my breath for such a deep dive, so I finally made my first oxygen bottle. And man, I wish I made one sooner. This at least doubled my breath capacity. I killed a couple of pufferfish and collected till the sun came up. Then it was time to hit up the island trader.
We can sell all of these. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, I need 3,000 reputation now? Holy crap.
After some diligent recycling over the past couple of weeks, I had 26 trash cubes. So I used 10 of them buying all the tier 1 and tier 2 bait I could. I then bought the advanced small and medium crop plot blueprints. Hopefully they're bigger and fancier. And I bought a juniper, not really sure why. And finally, I bought a foundation counter. This will tell me exactly how many foundations my raft has, making engine management much easier. I grabbed the recipes for the crop plots and tried to research juniper too, but got nothing. My guess is this is for some cookpot recipe I don't have yet. I also made a little table for the foundation counter and gave it pride of place under idiot.
Heading to another green island, because why not? And hopefully I'll pick up heaps of trash on the way, because that's kind of all I need at the moment. I feel like I just need to trash. I just need to trash it up.
I made it to another green island in short order, and it had the same vibe as that zipliney island from before. This one had no zip lines though, and I don't know why I came, to be honest, since I had no more trash cubes anyway, but at least I got some bees and enjoyed the opportunity to skewer this hideous pig. Or should I say the opportunity to nearly die to this hideous pig. This time as I headed back to sea, I decided to drift with the wind and spend some time just collecting that sweet, sweet trash. I kept on recycling and upgrading foundations as the trash came in, and also made another beehive. I made a few advanced small crop plots, moved my old crop plots next to the beehive, then placed my fancy new plots on this wall. I made 4 advanced medium crop plots too. They fit 4 crops instead of 2, which is glorious. And I got to farming with my new and improved setup. I'd been making veggie soup non-stop, so this increase in beet and potato production was handy. I kept compacting trash, of course, and one thing I haven't mentioned is that I have to change battery every 8 or so cubes, so I was building quite the stock of dead batteries. The raft was also very close to being fully upgraded to solid materials. Look how shiny the upgraded deck is.
Alright, biofuel refiner, let's go.
It was about time I figured out what the deal with biofuel was. I filled it with a bunch of raw veggies and meat, and then made a bunch of honey out of honeycomb and glass. The refiner took 2 jars of honey. Drip away, disgusting goo. I then ripped up the entire farm setup because I made 3 more small plots and they didn't fit on my wall. I ended up discovering the wall hanging trick works for chests too, so I got everything back into place nicely.
Let's check in on this. Biofuel. Is it still going? It's still going.
Looks like one full load makes 2 biofuel. Not bad.
Place biofuel. I see. I'm not going to do that yet. We'll set up a situation with a tank and all of that business.
I made a tank and a few fuel pipes, and then played around getting a feel for how the pipes work. It looks like I'll be able to make a nice little setup with this. That's in the future though, as I want to expand the raft some more and create a proper engine room. While defending my raft, I killed Shay, the shark's favorite actor Shia the shark, and then experimented with a sprinkler. These are kind of chunky, so I realized it wasn't really going to be practical for my current farm setup and packed it away for now. By day 57, the entire raft was upgraded to solid wood, so I decided it was time to think about expanding the raft some more. The problem is it was gonna cost, and I was still low on plastic. It was time for a better storage solution though, so I made a little wall here and lined it with chests. And this whole side of the wall was exclusively dedicated as a dump spot for goodies collected from the sea. I added some flowers, which I thought was a nice touch, and I had the middle rise to a little peak, where I placed the calendar on one side and the foundation counter on the other. I then began placing chests on the opposite side. These will be for more specific storage needs, like decorative items, dead batteries, and blueprints, which I don't really need, but it feels wrong throwing them away. I happened to drift right by a trading post island, so I dropped anchor and swam over, as it accumulated another 30 trash cubes, so I figured I might as well spend them. I had a vicious battle with a demon pig, grabbed some honeycombs, and then bought 20 of both tier 1 and tier 2 bait, as well as the advanced large crop plot blueprint and 60 plastic. That is how desperate I was for plastic. Though to be honest, it's a pretty good deal, as each trash cube was made of 20 to 30 palm leaves. As day 59 arrived, I returned to the island with my nets. Gotta get them bees, and gotta get them dodo idiots. Shia the shark's arch nemesis Shamu the shark attempted to eat Dodo Idiot, which was inconceivably rude behavior. I then continued working on the organization of my storage. I ended up removing the window from this wall in my production hut so I could move the chests to fit 4 vertically, and I filled out the other side of this storage area with chests. Chests galore. I decided I better replace this wall too for the sake of symmetry, and then got to expanding the raft some more. Look at this chew through my materials. I made some good progress though. Now that I had a bit of space over here, I played around with a new farm animal area. Since the spot my animals are in now is literally blocking a door, I came up with a plan to surround the entire enclosure with trees, so I designed with that in mind, and I spent ages deciding how big it would be. I also couldn't decide which fencing I liked, so I tried a bunch of things but ended up going with this. Kinda looks too fancy for an animal area, but whatever. I moved all my animals over, and to be honest, they're kinda too far away now. I don't know, it's a work in progress, we'll get there eventually. I had drifted directly into an island, so I pillaged all of its resources. I also killed Shamwow the shark, Shamu's favorite cleaning product. That was shark number 19 murdered according to my notes, by the way. That may be incorrect, but I can't be bothered counting again, so yeah, that was 19 sharks in the cemetery. Take that, great white shark population. And on day 62, I gave up my drifter's ways.
Alright, so I am bailing on trying to expand the raft because it's just like too slow. I will eventually, like my plan remains unchanged, but I feel like I want to get to the next story island. I want to progress a bit. I want to see what new stuff I unlock there.
Making the holes for the engine wheels to go in actually brought the foundation count back below 400, so I was good to go with 4 engines. And towards the blue dot I embarked. On the way, a new project took my fancy, the overhaul of the cooking area. I don't use the grills anymore, so I put those away, and I made some more cooking pots instead. I moved some storage here, and began placing even more storage up here on the wall. On day 63, I put the cooking area revamp on pause because I realized I needed to make a turn.
Oh. And it's like right there.
There it was indeed, Caravan Town. As I pulled up, an extremely territorial screecher started dropping rocks on me. While attempting to take him down, I suffered some friendly fire.
Wait, someone's shooting at me? Oh, that was my own arrow. Never mind. There we go. What's going on with those arrows?
And it was time to explore the island. Caravan Town was aptly named, as there were indeed hundreds of caravans. I explored pretty much all of them, scavenging for loot.
There's a stranger in town called Olaf something, but Olaf's boat was just filled with cages. In the cages were big rats.
So Olaf the Insane visited this island. That is a worry. The second note I found was from the same kid, and it told of an experiment to dive real deep using this bicycle-powered breathing apparatus thing. And so, of course, it was time to dive. My oxygen bottle had broken, so I was low on breath, but I found this container with an air pocket. As I followed the pipe down, I killed a couple of pufferfish and collected a few resources, before deciding I'd best return later with a fresh oxygen mask before trying to go any deeper. I wandered up the cliff face a little further, found this area reminiscent of those green dot islands I'd I'd found before.
One explosive powder.
This was yet another experiment of Deto's. This kid is clearly quite the scientist. And of course I can't wait to blow this weird rocket up. As day 64 dawned, I caught my second goat and returned to the raft for a restock. I grabbed a headlight and oxygen mask and headed back to continue diving. After even more pufferfish, as well as some choice goodies, I made my way to this shipping container. I was about 3 times deeper than I'd ever been, and I was duly rewarded. A blueprint for a metal detector, a zipline part, and the infirmary key. I then set off the rocket, and as you can see, it was a hugely successful launch. I could see something had landed on the little island over here, so I went to check it out. I found Major Tom, a glorious find, as well as a recipe for fireworks and a second zipline part.
Alright, let's put Major Tom. Get out of here.
I learned the recipe for fireworks and a metal detector, and crafted myself one of the latter in hopes I might find myself some treasure on Caravan Island. I headed over to this part of the island, which was as yet unexplored. I found a battery charger part on the docks, and man did I have a lot of deserted caravans to loot. I found another note of Deto's. This one was about some experiment attempting to stop the ocean from rising, which sounded a little ambitious, but I respect the hustle. And then I noticed these pipes everywhere.
What the heck is going on?
Clearly I need to do something with these, but I couldn't work it out, so I left them for now and continued my methodical ascent of the caravan cliff face.
Oh, here we go. Another battery charger part.
Deto's adventure journal. Ha says we have to go. Ma is getting sicker, and I heard that strange man Olaf shouting orders.
Deto hinted at a sickness sweeping the island, likely brought on by Olaf doing his weird experiments on the pigs. I came upon what felt like something of a town square, and as I parkoured about, I found my third battery charger part. I crossed this bridge over to the highest and most central structure on the island. There was a note from Crazy Olaf urging everyone to attack the quote-unquote elites in their luxury city called Tangaroa. Sounds like something Olaf would do for sure. There was also a rather eerie hallway.
This looks like Hooks of the Dead. Little monument kind of thingos. I need a third zipline part.
And so I was off exploring again. I wandered around for a while when I stumbled upon this well.
And there's something there that'll float up if I can fill the well up. Okay. I mean, I knew I'd probably have to come back to that pipe, but I almost forgot about it. Ah, I didn't see this before.
Somehow I'd missed the extremely obvious water pump. It was just a matter of lining up the pipes, which was a bit finicky, but I got there eventually.
There we go. Yep. There's my third zipline part.
On my way back to craft the zipline, I found heaps of caravans I hadn't yet looted. And I also remembered to use my metal detector and found this buried safe.
Oh, titanium ore and neighbor's dog. Is that a painting?
So it turns out finding treasure is quite rewarding. My first titanium ore. And yes, a neighbor's dog painting. I used the 3 pieces to make myself the zipline tool, and also received the blueprints for both ziplines and the zipline tool itself.
I'm gonna go over here first. Let's go!
There were some bees here, and a number of pigs that I began shooting arrows at as the sun rose in the distance. But before exploring this area any further, I decided to go empty my bags as I was sick of juggling inventory spots. It was a good haul of stuff, by the way, 10 biofuel. I placed the neighbor's dog artwork here so that I can admire it every time I go for a water refill. I put my 3 titanium ore onto smelt, and then I headed back up. This area was the infirmary, the key for which I got at the bottom of the ocean earlier. I grabbed a bunch of healing salves that were littered around and found the mayor's chest key.
It's the pigs. For weeks they've acted erratic. It all started when Olaf Wilstrom arrived.
Classic Olaf, always up to funny business with animals.
Alright, down we go to the mayor's little spot. Let's go. It's a good look with the oxygen bottle as well. I can now research battery charger. Yes. I have about 500 dead batteries, so that is a win. Mayor's chest key. Engine controls. Alright, that's officially done with Caravan Town, and this is our next destination, Tangaroa.
I wrapped up my visit to Caravan Town with a treasure hunt and managed to find another buried safe. This one gave me 3 more titanium ore and 2 biofuel. I returned to the raft and picked up 3 titanium bars. I researched one and learned the recipes for the advanced collection net, which apparently holds more trash before getting full, as well as the battery charger and the engine controls. Bring on the titanium tech. And once my other 3 titanium ore were done smelting, I had enough bars to make a battery charger. It fit 2 batteries at once, and so I put some biofuel in and it began chugging away. And throughout the day, that 1 biofuel was actually good for 2 sets of batteries, fully charging 4 batteries total. Not bad not bad. I drifted directly into a green dot island on day 69, so after killing Shamrock the shark, Shamwow the shark's mistress, I gave it a look-see. I wasn't interested in anything beyond the trading post and maybe some cheeky treasure, so I made it quick. I was back up to 30 trash cubes, so I bought 20 more tier 1 and tier 2 bait, as well as 60 plastic. I also found some treasure over here. It was a suitcase this time, which is worse than a safe I guess, as it only had 2 titanium ore in it. I found a second treasure spot and somehow dug directly into this big old rock and got myself suitcase number 2. I caught this llama.
Alright, come on, buddy. Buddy, that's your name. That makes 2 llamas, 2 goats, and 2 chickens. I feel like I don't really need any more.
And so with that catch, it was Animal Farm complete. I now had a whopping 120 fancy bait total, 60 tier 1 and 60 tier 2. And I wasn't relishing the prospect, but it was definitely about time I got to fishing, and so I did, for 2 days straight. On the night of day 69, I fished. For the entirety of day 70, I fished.
Fishing with my flippers and my mare hat and my bottle. Fishing, creepy fishing.
And deep into the night of day 71, I kept on fishing. I burned through all that bait and caught myself 120 fish to sell next time I hit up a green dot. And that was definitely too much fishing for my liking. On the plus side, my dump chests were almost full. I had over 3 chests full of planks, and I racked up more than a chest worth of plastic too. I picked up where I left off with my cooking area revamp and made a 4th cookpot to finish off this cookpot lineup. I also put down a 2nd juicer. It's looking good, wouldn't you say, Major Tom? I headed out towards another green dot, and on the way there, I tore down this makeshift flour mill and made a more permanent setup over here. I filled my bags with 35 trash cubes and 120 fancy fish, and then headed to the island where I found the tier 2 fish give a whopping 100 reputation each. So just like that, I unlocked access to tier 3.
What can we get? Ooh. I think I just go for all of these.
I was only getting very few titanium ore from the odd treasure find, so buying a bunch made sense. I also bought blueprints for a canteen and detail plank, as well as the remaining cooking and juicing recipes available. I made myself a canteen and discovered it can fit double the water compared to a water bottle. This was a very satisfying upgrade, and great news for my hydration. On day 73, I figured I must be close to having the materials I need to perform my raft expansion, so I filled my bag with planks and plastic and gave it a crack. I made use of triangle foundations to bring the back of the raft to a point. I then randomly remembered I could now make a detail plank, so I made some and investigated.
Can I just go to heaven with this? I can just go anywhere with this now.
Yeah, so detail planks are pretty wacky. I carried on with the raft expansion and ran out of plastic when I was just 2 rows away from completion. I killed some time doing chores and let my collection nets do their thing and then kept on working.
Do we call that the back of the boat? I think we do. I think that's it.
I then crafted the engine controls. This controls all the engines at once and also the advanced anchor.
Okay, so I don't have an advanced anchor, so I can't use this yet. But does this work? That works.
I grabbed my engines and made myself a 7th engine because I've got over 600 foundations now and got to work. I took my time figuring out how to fit all 7 back here and ended up going with 2 right at the back and then a line of 5. The edge engines felt a little close to the gnawing jaws of whatever shark was currently haunting me, so I made these little protective areas. And as you can see, I left some space for fuel piping, so that was the next thing to do. I had drifted into another trading post island though, so I had a quick sojourn first. A bird idiot was dropping rocks on my head, so I hid inside the trading post, big strats, and bought the diving helmet because I was curious to see if it was purely cosmetic or if it would actually increase my breath. I also bought as much titanium ore as I could and then tested out my new helmet. Turns out it is indeed purely cosmetic, which is what I expected, but it was still kind of disappointing. But at least I had the opportunity to kill Shamrock the shark's son, Sham Pebble.
Nice biofuel.
I then began work on my fuel setup. I placed a fuel tank here and threaded the fuel pipes connecting all the engines to the one fuel system. Next up, it was time to figure out a setup for my new captain's area, because you know this hideous monstrosity just has to go. I wanted something centered just in front of the engines. In a feat of engineering genius, I built the ladder straight into a giant piece of wood for ease of access, before realizing I don't even want it in the middle anyway. I put 2 angled ladders on either side instead. I placed the receiver in the middle with the steering wheel and engine controls on either side, and then spent what felt an eternity trying to figure out a solution for antenna placement. I ended up putting one either side and one behind, and then I realized I'd blocked off my ladders again, so I ripped them down. I put the antenna problem on pause for a second to make a wall partitioning the engine area. For now it's just a facade, but I might turn it into an actual building at some point. I then realized I drifted into yet another trading post island. The game just really wants me to spend my trash cubes. I found some crappy treasure, and then bought an advanced scarecrow, which apparently acts actually works. Unlike my other scarecrow that I made on like day 3. That one just mysteriously disappeared, presumed dead. I then decided I was due for another underwater collecting session. Sham Pebble the Shark's mum Sham Boulder the Shark wasn't a fan of that idea though, so I killed her. And guess what? Because I saved and quit at the end of day 78, when I opened up the world on day 79, another shark had appeared. Sherry the Shark, I think his name was. Anyway, I won't argue. I go through tons of shark meat making biofuel. I was constantly using metal for tools, copper for electronics, sand for glass, clay for clay bowls, seaweed for vine goo, and scrap for about 300 different things. So this underwater scavenging session was definitely a good idea. Sherry's twin Sherry the Shark bothered me before long. Honestly, sharks galore recently. I don't know what the heck's going on, but again, I won't argue. Upon attempting to disembark, I realized my raft was well and truly wedged, so I had to fire up the engines.
2, 3, 4, 5. So it fits 5 biofuel. 5 biofuel feeding into 7 engines.
Yeah, that math didn't add up, so I filled up the tank again. And I think I discovered a weird bug, because all the engines filled up, but they kept on chugging pathetically. No, I'm just kidding, there were no bugs, I'm just an idiot. I forgot to lift up the anchor. I am definitely not the cleverest baboon in the zoo. I placed another fuel tank though, and then decided to move my sail and streamer up to the command center. I'm not gonna lie, this setup makes me feel like a real captain. It was finally time to get back to figuring out these flaming antennas on day 80. I built a structure over to the left, thinking maybe I could chuck the antennas over there. And I know what you're thinking. That's a terrible idea. I agree. It didn't work. I tried multiple variations and it was a circus. Antennas too close to each other. Antenna too far away from the receiver. Antenna has mild depression and doesn't want to come into work today. I eventually gave up on that plan, so I now had the frame of some random building. I put one antenna on either side and the third one behind on a platform above the engines. The ones on either side didn't look structurally sound, and it bothered me until I remembered a most ingenious invention, the detail plank. I did some of these ones, and it at least looks like it won't fall over now, and that's good enough for me. My chests were getting kind of full, so I began a second storage wall. I also destroyed the final remnants of my starter raft. See you later, hideous towers. I moved the anchor below the captain's perch and destroyed Idiot's random wall and gave him pride of place over here. And I set up Pumbaa over here on the opposite side. Oh, and here's a paint update. We love a good paint update. I then moved the trash compactor in here, and now the deck was finally clear of random clutter. First things first, let's move the animals again. They are indeed too far away. I made the new enclosure 18 foundations in size because I had a plan. I made a bunch more dirt plots and chucked these down too, but I didn't have quite enough to fill up the area. I googled sprinklers and found out they water 9 tiles in a 3x3 area, hence the shape of this animal area. I moved all the animals over and gave it a whirl.
Yeah. It works.
I then began relocating my crop farm setup. I also had to rip down some of the random structure I built for no reason earlier. I popped old mate Advanced Scarecrow down and made 4 more medium crop plots to fill up this area. Next up was the small crop plot area, and these can of course hang off walls, so I can fit heaps in here. I ended up with a setup like this, and then I drifted into another green dot island. I bought a wardrobe, which allowed me to change into this outfit, and a small and long drawbridge, just to see what all the fuss is about. These were pretty cool, but I had no specific use for them just yet, so they went into storage. I also got the pirate hat. Next to be ripped up and relocated was my beehive setup. I made 14 small crop plots, and sadly decided to rip down the remains of this monstrosity, including these levitating bits, and then began working on the new setup for the hives. This included destroying this wall, which accidentally destroyed 2 crop plots that were attached to it. That was a little bit stupid, but we press on. I made the wall bigger, made 2 more beehives, and put 12 flowers above them here. I'd hoped this would be enough to make all 4 hives produce at max, but no bingo. Plan B looked like this, a much more convoluted setup. I didn't get the positioning perfect the first time, but I eventually got it right, and it actually looks kind of cool. As you can see, there's room for a 5th beehive once I find some more bees to craft one. Some seagulls bothered my flowers though, so I was deeply disappointed in my Advanced Scarecrow's efforts. To inspire him to higher heights, I moved him over a little bit. Hopefully all my crops and flowers will be in range with him centered a bit better. Next in the firing line was an expansion of my production capabilities. I made 4 biofuel refiners and 4 recyclers.
I think I may have made too many. Oh gosh. So much trash. So much trash. This is the only way to keep my chests from overflowing, to be fair, so...
The problem is I have to put all the trash in one piece at a time, so that's like 500 presses of the E key to fill all of these up, which is kind of outrageous.
Now this business is gonna require a lot of honey. I mean, I might as well use up my heads, right?
All them heads convert to biofuel in a 1-to-1 ratio, so not bad, not bad. I checked up on my beehives. The flowers seemed to be unbothered by birdies. Good job, Scarecrow. And each hive was producing 3 honeycomb. Beautiful. Now that I was using batteries for the 4 sprinklers outside, these 5 recyclers, the receiver, and juicers, I made 2 more battery chargers to keep all them batteries zappy. And here's me planting like 70 potatoes and beets. In a way, all these improvements to my raft just increased the amount of chores I have to do, but I was very happy. I'd come a long way since my days as a nerd drifting on a 2x2 raft with nothing but a hook. Somehow I'd actually done all the revamping I wanted to do, so I figured it was finally time to head out in search of Tangaroa. I whacked in the coordinates, fired up the engines, and off I went. As I was compacting trash, a favorite pastime of mine, I spotted this strange sight out the window.
Oh, there's a golf ball. So this is Tangaroa. It's like a dome city. I was not expecting that. I was expecting like another island or something.
This place looked huge, so I anticipated a long stretch off the raft. So I made some choice beverages to keep me hydrated, just in case my canteen wasn't enough. I headed off and had a celebratory Tangaroa murder of Shari the shark, Shari and Sherry's older brother, and then swam round and found this loading dock entrance. I made my way down, finding a couple of Olaf's famous crazy rats on the way, and found myself in the cafeteria. I found a note from Ruben talking about a fleet of rafts chasing Tangaroa. That must have been the caravan town people whipped into a frenzy by Olaf. Why did all the drama in this world always come back to crazy Olaf? I found 2 generator parts and then made my way to the storage area where I found a 3rd generator part. I climbed up the crane controls and placed the generator parts in here, which powered up the crane, and from there it was a fairly simple puzzle. See the tape on top of some of the containers? That indicates where missing walls are. So basically I just needed to make a line of tape all the way to the door. Once through, I found the water pipe blueprint and another note detailing the demise of Tangaroa. They ran out of fuel and the rabid rafters were upon them.
I guess I just go up this way. Okay, maybe not.
I managed to avoid drowning and found the water level had risen high enough so that I could reach the broken ladder to the plantation area. How convenient. I then found my way to the zappy waterlogged plantation.
Strawberries. Let's go.
I found a note from the plantation guy whinging about how they were running out of food, but more importantly, I found bananas. Straubs and bananas, a great day indeed. From there, it was a matter of hopping between stuff to avoid getting electrocuted, while I collected tape with which I fixed the door. I jumped around, found another door I needed 3 tape to fix, and then as I listened to Ruben explain that war had broken out in Tangaroa and he was cooking up a plan to escape, I emerged into brilliance. The interior of a golf ball. This was a land full of butler bots that tried to electrocute me and bougie apartment buildings to explore and loot. The butler bots dropped these keycards, and that's how I gained access to most of the buildings. In my adventures, I found tons of tape, which I'll need back downstairs, and also a bunch of vending machine coins. Most of the apartments had weirdly taped up rooms, which I accessed with my machete. These invariably had a safe with some juicy loot like biofuel or titanium ore.
Can I open this? Well, that is very convenient. That is literally going onto my raft. In fact, it would be foolish of me not to make the most of this opportunity.
I now had gloriously easy access to my raft for dumping stuff and restocking, which made the rest of my time at Tangaroa that much more convenient. This futuristic yet post-apocalyptic nightmare of a city was really cool. I kept exploring and came to realize there were plenty of opportunities for parkour. Some apartments that weren't accessible by elevator, I accessed by zipline and elite jumping skills. Speaking of elite jumping skills, I had a doozy while attempting to scale aircon units and I fell like 8 stories and somehow took less than half my health in damage. I guess that's my enormous thighs coming in clutch. I knew I needed to get into this big old tower in the middle, and I could see a zipline going to it from one of the apartment buildings, so I had some sense of my objective. And by the evening of day 90, I had done my loop of all the streets with apartment buildings, so it was time to check out the center of the city. I found another note from Ruben indicating he teamed up with Dedo, the scientific whiz kid from Caravan Town. I also found where to spend all those vending machine coins I'd been collecting. I bought a whole dang piano for 8 coins, and some Tangaroa style paintings and Tangaroa plants.
Can't believe there's a flaming piano in this game, and it actually works.
After indulging in some Mozart-level piano brilliance, I headed back into the belly of Tangaroa to make use of the bounty of tape I'd been collecting. I used 3 to fix one door, found some more bananas and strawberries, happy days, and then 3 more to fix the elevator door.
Electric purifier. Oh, so I think that's all of the downstairs unlocked. And now I've got this elevator. I don't know which tower this is.
This tower was the scene of someone's birthday. I did some more parkour and ziplined over to this building, which had a multi-level bar restaurant type vibe. And there were tons of vending machine coins in here, which was juicy. I climbed a few flights of stairs and finally I was ziplining to the middle building.
We're heading up the big blue ladder. The big blue ladder. Oh crap. I fell down off the big blue ladder.
I headed up an elevator and discovered the large storage blueprint, as well as this note.
Oh, I see. This is the code.
I headed down to street level, used some more coins to buy the rest of the paintings from this vending machine, and then went and found all of the buildings hinted at by the beautiful drawings in the note I found. It was a simple matter of figuring out the street number of each building, and thereby figuring out the code.
4813. What the heck is going on? Whoa! What just launched? Better not have hit my raft.
I ran around like a confused goose for a bit, and then...
I should not have gotten on the dome just then. I've made a grave mistake.
It was worth it for this view though. I then slid on my butt all the way into the water, and fortunately the enormous golf ball wasn't too slippery, so somehow I didn't end up dead. I went off in search of whatever had just launched, and saw this floating in the water. Turns out the entire bridge of the ship had ejected. I climbed in and found a token Aussie character named Elaine.
You there! Get me out of this thing!
She was a massive bogan, and she turned into a golden beam of light. Good stuff, bogan lady.
Varuna. Oh, there's our next location, Varuna Point. And water tank. Let's go, baby.
There was a safe of goodies too, and a note from Captain Tully acknowledging his part in the doom of Tangaroa as an unsustainable experiment and ultimately a failure. That's what you get for trying to hang on to your luxury lifestyle in a water apocalypse, I guess. And just like that, I was done with Tangaroa.
Bye, golf ball. See you later.
With what remained of day 92, I resumed drifting and got on top of my neglected chores. And as always, it was a good feeling to be back on the raft.
Alright, water pipe. Nice. Large storage. Very nice. Water tank. Nice. Electric purifier. Nice.
The large storage was indeed large, but it only fit double what a chest fits, despite being like 300 times the size. I was not a fan, so I didn't bother using it. The electric purifier, on the other hand, was quite majestic. It vacuumed seawater up on its own and worked away purifying, and it fit 15 cups of water, 3 times more than the advanced purifiers. I ended up making 2, one to replace the old purifying setup, and one over here near the farms. I made a water tank too, and with this I could set up an automatic water feed to the sprinklers if I wanted using pipes. I decided not to because I have to change the sprinklers batteries anyway, so while I'm doing that I might as well fill up with water too and save the mess of a fat water tank and 300 pipes. As day 94 dawned, I had over 100 trash cubes. That is a lot. And here began a stretch of time where all chores were left undone as I focused on a new project, building a home. I toyed with a few ideas but ended up going with a simple hut straight onto the deck. I made myself a feathery paintbrush and played around with paint for the first time. And as you can see, all the painting I did was hideous, so eventually I just turned the whole thing back to default colors. But before I did that, I began decorating. Some fancy Tangaroa paintings on the wall, some choice lighting, some plants out the front. I built this thingy on the roof, I don't know what you'd call that, but it made the building look less boring, I guess. The white roof still looks hideous though, but don't worry, I got rid of that eventually. My elite shelf decorating skills were on display, and I placed a lovely fireplace as well as these motivational quotes with hilarious raft puns. Seize the day. Live, laugh, sail. Raft, sweet raft. I fixed the stinky roof and then gave some texture to the outside walls with some shelving, another hilarious motivational quote, and some string lights.
It's not bad. It's a nice little interior. There's literally no bed in here though, so it's not really my house, is it?
Yeah, so after all that, I didn't even leave space for a bed, which I guess is appropriate since I never sleep anyway. Also, it's in kind of a random spot, but I think it'll feel more natural once I've got a bunch of trees up around the farm area, and once I develop more of a distinct path that leads to it, if that makes sense. I made some lighting which I sprinkled around the place, and then remembered I have banana and strawberry seeds, so I planted all the strawbs in small plots, and one banana tree in my lonesome large plot. I drifted into a little island, so I figured I might as well quickly head underwater for a cheeky cheeky dip with my hook, but it was kind of slim pickings, which was a bit sad. I did at least kill Shamozzle the shark, Shori the shark's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother. I then randomly remembered bird nests are a thing in this game, so I made 8 of them for some reason. 8 is way too many, but whatever. And I figured they'd want to nest up high, so I made this ridiculous tower and put some bird nests on top of it. It worked. The seagulls were nesting. I then tried to cover the tower in palm leaf walls, but I could only reach halfway up. So yeah, it kind of looked a bit janky, but whatever. I now had seagulls nesting, which actually makes no sense because those idiot seagulls try to eat my crops, so I don't know why I'm giving them a home. I set out for a green dot and did a bunch of chores on the way.
Alright, let's have a look up in these birds' nests. Do these seagulls lay eggs or something? Oh, I can't reach. That's a sad development. After actually finishing the ladder of my weird two-tone tower, I discovered the seagulls leave behind feathers. So I guess that's a cheeky way of getting feathers without having to murder screeches. I then tried to fix the tower by building some scaffolding so I could reach the top half, but it proved difficult, so I gave up and headed onto the island once I arrived. I bought 20 of each tier's bait, a surfboard, and 15 scrap. I also bought a Viking horn and tic-tac-toe board before entirely running out of trading coins. I put the surfboard up here. Clearly one of my many shark enemies had taken a bite out of it, which was hardcore. And I put the Viking horn here. And I put the tic-tac-toe board over here. It only let me place 3 X's and 3 O's though, so I couldn't really defeat myself, so I guess it's a draw. I then expanded the front of the raft out a little. I didn't really have anything particular in mind for this space, but I wouldn't mind expanding forward a bit. Come to think of it, I'd also like to build vertically some more as well. It's literally day 99 and I haven't built a single zip line on my raft because it's just such a flat raft. And on day 100, I decided I'd better fish up some of them fancy fish. Except like 2 seconds later, I arrived at another green dot island. This island had 2 safe treasure spots, which was pretty lucky, and the second safe had an EDM cassette, which was particularly interesting. I'd noticed back on Tangaroa you can buy a radio boombox looking thing, so maybe you can play the cassette using that. I sold the few fish I'd managed to catch, bought 20 more of each bait, as well as a compass and some more titanium ore. I then drifted out the remainder of day 100, catching fancy fish and admiring all I'd achieved. An efficient production house, a glorious cooking area, elite storage, collection nets for days, an awesome animal farm and crop farm, a sweet beehive setup, a gorgeously decorated cottage, a magnificent captain's perch, a hideous seagull tower, and a powerful engine area. I reminisced about all the story locations I'd visited, listed in my journal. It really has been a wild ride. And as the sun rose on day 101, I did some jumpy jumpies in front of my calendar, as I officially had 100 days of Raft under my belt. As you may be able to tell, I love this game and I'm clearly not finished. I've got a bunch more goals to work towards on my Raft design, and it seems like I've got at least a couple more story locations to go before I finish the game. So like, subscribe, comment if you want to see a 200 days of Raft. Check out 100 Days of Dinkum, where I build a glorious village surrounded by danger in the mythical land of Australia.